Hi, my name is Bridget, and I'm going to be talking to you guys today about the EE, or extended essay. So if you haven't seen Carrie's video on this subject, she describes in depth sort of what the EE is about and what it physically is. I'm not going to be going to as much depth on that, so you should watch that video first. So Carrie did talk about her experience in the EE, but we've had sort of drastically different ones, so I'm going to be talking about what I experienced, the advisor process, stuff like that, figuring out topics. So I did my EE over Norse mythology and its influence on the game God of War 4, which, kind of a geeky topic, but whatever. So I had a lot of trouble at first with figuring out what overall general discipline or topic to put my EE into, because I knew what question I wanted to do and what subject I wanted to do, but the actual IB categories are kind of nebulous and scary. So I ended up going with interdisciplinary as my main one, and then there are 3 subsets of interdisciplinary, and the one I went with is called literature and performance. So literature and performance is basically where you take a book or work of literature, poem, whatever, and then you look also at its adaptation onto screen, film, stage, video game, whatever. So mine were the prose and poetic Eddas, which are the authorities on Norse mythology, and then turning that into God of War 4, which is the game that was based on those books, or one of them. So overall, my experience was very positive with the EE, but I did have a lot of struggles with that initial stage of figuring out where I wanted it to go. So make sure, I would say, for the EE, make sure that you figure out what IB discipline you want to start in before you figure out your topic, because that will make your process a lot easier and you won't find yourself trying to jam topics into places where they don't fit, and it'll save you a lot of headache later. As far as the advisor process goes, my advisor is Mr. Sealand, who also happens to be sort of coordinating EE this year. So that was an interesting dynamic, but definitely listen to your advisors and make sure you pick an advisor that really knows the topic well. So for instance, Mr. Sealand wrote his entire college thesis on part of the subject that I was working on. So make sure you pick an advisor who really will be able to help you on the specifics of your discipline and your topic, which will be hard to find in some cases, like mine. But that also goes into the idea of when you're writing your essay, I find that it's really important that you describe your specifics. So this is a 4,000 word paper, which is the upper limit, so it's 3,000 to 4,000. So you have plenty of room. Make sure you describe the terms you're talking about and describe what you're actually trying to prove, because not all IB graders are going to be complete experts in your area. So for example, mine is kind of a niche topic, so they're not going to be able to find someone who's an expert in Norse mythology and an expert in video game tropes, most likely, or they're not going to try to find that person. So just make sure that you're describing everything and that you're picking a topic that you really care about and really are willing to do research on in order to be able to describe all those things. With that, the research process is something that I also may not have handled the best, so make sure that you do all of your research first. Don't start writing your paper before you have everything fully researched, because if you do that, you're going to end up, having to add things and remove things, and it's going to be way more complicated than just trying to write your EE, like, straight up having done all the research and having the knowledge base, which is something that I did not do, and something that you should do if you don't want to end up stressed like me. With that, make sure you edit your EE regularly and a few times after you initially write it, because it is going to get a lot better. So for me, I wrote my EE, I showed it to my advisor, it was pretty terrible, and then he gave me a whole bunch of comments on things to fix, and then I just had to go back and change everything. So the editing process is one that is going to take up a lot of time, and you really need to look at as an in-depth part of this. Don't think that you're going to be able to write it and then have it sent off to IB with no problems. That's just not reasonable considering the length of the work that you're trying to create. So with that, I think that's most of what I was looking to talk about with this video, but if you do have any individual questions, Carrie and I both will be talking about the EE at our own little booth at this IB meeting, so feel free to come talk to me with any questions.